Hello and welcome to the Activist Corner. I am your host, Jen Jackson, and today we have a very special guest with us. We have Tammy Kessner here from Versativa. Tammy is a hemp activist, and she is also a mother of two. She resides in Grand Island, New York, with her husband Scott and her two beautiful daughters, Kiana and Kalina. Um, Tammy has a background in Reiki healing, and she is also a network marketer in something that she believes can change people's lives as well as save our planet. And of course, we are talking about hemp. Hemp can save our planet as well as help so many people who need healing. She writes, "We shall not live in fear. We shall come together and raise our voices and free this beautiful plant that we call hemp and cannabis." She also writes, she strongly urges anyone who is discouraged by the word marijuana and hemp to please do your research, and you can start by listening and reading from the man himself, Mr. Rick Simpson. For those of you who do not know who Rick Simpson is, I would direct you to the short video documentary Run from the Cure. You will be amazed, and it is an education you are not likely to forget, and one that it will pique your interest, and you will most likely start to research and find out all kinds of things that will enlighten you, educate you, and hopefully motivate you. So, without further ado, let's bring Tammy on right now.
Tammy, are you with us?
I am.
Tammy, can you give our listeners a little bit of history on yourself, about your background? I mean, we all enter into this from different angles, whether it be the push for farmers' rights to grow hemp, or advocating medical marijuana and safe patient access, or even the approach that it's a civil liberties and personal to the individual. So, how did you enter into it, and what triggered you to get involved?
Well, I came into it in a search for medicinal, as in the hemp seed oil, as well as the medical marijuana part. I had actually lost somebody very close to me due to cancer, and I was like, there's something out there that's going to be, better than what the prescriptions and the chemotherapy and the radiation. And I went in the search, and I came into finding, the benefits with hemp as well as medicinal marijuana. So that's what I have been focusing on ever since.
Wonderful. And, it's funny that you mentioned the medical marijuana in relation to cancer. I'm sure you're familiar with Rick Simpson's work.
Pardon me?
Rick Simpson, are you familiar with his work?
Oh, yes. Actually, he's one of the first people I bumped into, was Rick Simpson. I went through his website, Phoenix Tears, and I find him to be the most fascinating person because he was out there actually helping people with his hemp oil and giving it away for free, and he was getting results. But yet, what I think is so cruel is that this man has to hide, because if he went back home, they would have arrested him. For why? Well,
for curing people, in essence.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a fantastic man, and he should be allowed, to do what he does with healing people and whatnot. I think it's very unfair.
I agree with you, and I think his work really needs to be investigated and given more serious consideration. Definitely more testing needs to be done in that area because it seems so promising.
It does. People need to wake up. They need to wake up, and they need to do some research on this man before they judge him and say he's doing bad, because he's not. He's really not.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are just put off when they hear, I got into a discussion the other night with someone, and we were talking about homeopathic remedies, and I brought up Rick Simpson's work, and I was referring to it as cannabis oil. Well, I was referring to it, I wasn't referring to it at first, honestly. I was telling him about the results that this man had with a plant. Okay. And when I got through telling him Rick's story, he asked me, well, what is it? What kind of plant? And I said, it was cannabis. And he says, I don't know what cannabis is. And I said, well, you probably know it as marijuana. And he got very silent, and then he says, well, the fact that it's marijuana kind of concerns me. So everything that I had just told him previously went for nothing the second he heard marijuana. And I'm dumbfounded when I get that response from people. A lot of times I don't know how to face that. I don't want to challenge them. I'm not looking for a debate. But I think from now on what I'm going to say to people who kind of are taken aback by that and, withdraw a little bit once they realize, what you're referring to, I think I'm just going to say, your reaction is not surprising. Anyone who was born in the last 100 years would react like this. Anyone who's born in the last 100 years who hasn't done their research would react like this, which is true because 100 years ago, everyone knew what hemp and marijuana was. Actually, the word marijuana didn't even exist. It was hemp and cannabis. But no, and that brings me to another topic, and I know a lot of our listeners may be asking, what is the difference between hemp and marijuana, or is there a difference between hemp and marijuana? And definitely feel free to answer that for them.
Okay, well, actually, I came across some really good information the other day, and was it in 1955, the Czechoslovakians actually treated patients with hemp seed oil, and it actually cured tuberculosis. Well, the hemp is different because hemp is actually used for the seeds, building, nutrition, fiber, fuel, everything that we can use today. It has no THC in it whatsoever. And it's actually cousins of the marijuana plants, or shall I say cannabis. And the cannabis is used actually for the medicinal purposes. Glaucoma, it actually helps people deal with the effects of chemotherapy because after chemotherapy, people tend to not eat at all. They get really weak and they lose their appetite. And medicinal marijuana actually brings hunger, and it helps these people. It helps these people. So I find it just horrible to have to depend on other countries and just have wars all around everywhere, because the fact is we can grow hemp, we can have farmers put back to work, we can supply our countries and build and fuel and feed. Hemp can be grown anywhere. You can grow hemp in Africa. There is so much you can be done with it, as well as marijuana. You can heal people. I just find it awful. I just find it awful, that they're holding it back and they're not letting us grow it.
Yeah, it's almost nonsensical. It really is. It does not make any, well, I suppose it makes sense to a lot of special interest groups, but it certainly doesn't make sense for our ecology, our health, what we're doing on a daily basis. And, so.
Exactly. They know about this. They know. But the thing is, big pharma, they don't want it. They do not want it to be legalized. Everything would crash. Everything would crash and go under. It's a shame. It really, really is. But yet people all around are dying from diseases that can be helped.
Right. Well, I think the more people we educate, the better it's going to get. And I do also believe that once people realize that they are not powerless, that there is alternative medicine out there that doesn't involve hospitals and sickness and nausea, I think that they're going to pay attention, and I think that they're going to start opting for that and then begin to really demand that it goes mainstream and legal. And it's kind of like the government is talking out both sides of their mouth when they have it scheduled as a Class 1 or Schedule 1 drug, but yet they hold a patent on it for medicinal purposes and antioxidants, I believe it is. So it's...
Yes, exactly. I mean, think about it. Back then, it used to be illegal not to grow hemp. Not to.
Yes, absolutely. The first marijuana law was actually ordering farmers to grow hemp. I do remember reading that.
Exactly. Yeah. They paid their taxes with it.
Well, it pretty much funded, our whole First World War and part of our Second. It certainly contributed to a lot of the supplies that we needed to keep our efforts going on our side. Right. Yeah, it's amazing when you really do, when you start to list on your fingers all the different products that can be made from cannabis and hemp. It's amazing. It could actually, I think it was Jack Farrar who said that marijuana could save the world. It's so true. We get food, we get shelter, we get clothing, we get medicine, fuel. What else do we get?
We get everything. We get houses.
Yeah,
everything. Yeah. You name it, we can do it with hemp.
That's right.
We can cure, build with hemp.
Yeah,
hemp and marijuana.
It's amazing.
If we put these two together,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Enough is enough. It's time to end the nonsense. It's time to educate people so that we can end the madness. That's what I always say. End the madness.